Yo, what's good, YouTube? In today's video, we're going over my top 5 meta loadouts after the Season 4 Reloaded update. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like for the algorithm, subscribe, those notifications turned on, and let's get into it. The first gun we're going to be hopping into here today is going to be the Kar98K. This actually caught a nerf here within the update. It's actually still going to be totally okay to use. It caught a slight damage range nerf, and they adjusted some of the aim assist on it to fall in line a little bit more with regular sniper rifles, not the marksman rifles, which really doesn't mean a whole lot, but we're going to hop in here and give you guys the updated build for it. So first thing in here is going to be a suppressor. We're going to go throw on the sonic suppressor L, which is going to keep us off the radar, help their bullet velocity and damage range. You guys can be able to see we're already at 58.7 meters. We're going to extend this out, like I said, as far as possible, and the bullet velocity will definitely be extending out very, very far. So it'll be totally fine, and we're going to be, getting great damage profile out of this gun. So that's going to be our first attachment. Second is going to be the barrel. We're going to go through on the 7.62 long barrel, skipping over that first name. I never try to pronounce that because it's just kind of a cluster, a bit of a mouthful. But anyways, the 7.62 long barrel increases our damage range and of course our bullet velocity quite substantially here at 12, and 15%, giving us all the way out to 65.7 meters. And of course our minimum is at 104.5. Then our bullet velocity has now reached over 804.8 meters per second, which is pretty solid. So now let's hop into our next attachment, which is going to be the ammunition, and that is going to be the 7.92 times 57 millimeter high grain rounds down here. And that is going to be a wonderful attachment, giving us a nice 15% increase across the board, pushing us out to the maximum effective damage range of 75.6 meters. It used to be almost 86 meters, but they did, like I said, nerf it a little bit, and they tried to hit the bullet velocity a little bit, but it's still basically about 930 meters per second, which is perfectly fine. So you guys really don't have to worry about a whole lot. It's basically like if you're running more of a mobility build with the Kar98K or didn't have a suppressor on before, now you have the suppressor, you basically have the same exact damage range, so it's really not that big of a nerf, and this gun should still perform fine. A laser section, we go through on the SL Razor Hawk laser light, giving us just a little bit of mobility and of course stabilizing the gun out. This helps you be a bit more aggressive here with your Kar98K build. And then lastly, in the optics section, we have two different options in here. I'm just going to go all the way down here to the very end. I know a lot of people like the SPX80, which is the 6.6 times magnification. I personally am not that big of a fan of this. I'd prefer to go for the Range Caller V3.4. This is my preference largely on this gun. This is the OG Kar98K optic from Warzone 1, and it's a 7 times magnification as opposed to the 6.6. So just slightly more than the SPX, but overall, this to me personally feels the best. So I go ahead and run the Range Caller. You guys can always run the SPX in this exact build and be perfectly fine. So this is my full build right here, and go ahead and get your after update Kar98K screenshot. For our second gun here today, I'm pretty excited to be bringing this one back into the meta rotation, the MTZ556. This has been a pretty solid assault rifle, but it was kind of lacking a little bit on its longer range, potential to actually really hit. And it got a nice bullet velocity increase just as a base from 690 up to 720 meters per second, much like the Holger actually got a bullet velocity increase. But this is a really solid gun now, and you guys are definitely going to be using this a lot more at range. First attachment though, however, is not actually even going to be a suppressor. We're going down here to add a compensator, and that's going to be the Casus brake. This is going to help us out their horizontal recoil and our firing aiming stability. This is really, really solid, and you guys definitely should be running this as opposed to like a suppressor. You could probably realistically get away with running a VT7 Spiritfire, but overall you should probably just be running the Casus brake. If you don't mind being unsuppressed like myself, I don't really care. You guys can go ahead and do this. Barrel section, we're going to go through on this very first one here, the MTZ Clinch Pro barrel. I know some people like to talk about the Clinch Pro versus, the Drifter Heavy Long barrel because they both basically extend out your overall range, but let's bring up the detailed stats here real quick. We get a nice 21, 21, and 26% increase, making it so our bullet velocity is about 903 meters per second, which is really solid, and 49.3 meters is pretty much at the top end of your effective damage range for an assault rifle, pretty much like in the meta anyways. So if we go down here, the MTZ Drifter Heavy Long barrel, this has given us about 52 for our effective damage range, but you can see it's only a 15% increase to our bullet velocity, meaning we're only hitting 825 meters per second as opposed to 903. So this is going to hit a lot harder for only basically a meter or two difference in your total effective damage range. So you should always go for this one over the Drifter Heavy Long barrel. It just doesn't make sense to run that otherwise. Now, underbarrel section, we go through on that Bruin Heavy support grip. You guys should always go ahead and run this. It just makes sense to go ahead and do it. No other underbarrel is going to be better for the MTZ, so I'd highly suggest you exclusively run this. Magazine section, throw on that 50 round drum, which is pretty standard here for this gun. Never ever should go for the base magazine. Doesn't ever make sense under any circumstance. Or the 20, for instance. I don't know why you'd ever do this. That's just a total random BS attachment. So go for the 50. Lastly, we're utilizing the iron sights. So we're gonna go throw on a stock. That's gonna be the MTZ Marauder stock. If you guys don't want to run a stock, you guys could probably just, not throw on the MTZ Marauder here. You could take that off, go to the Opixz section and throw on something like a Jack Glassless, and that's going to be your optic of choice if you're going to be running this exact build here. So between the Jack Glassless or the MTZ, it's going to be, or the MTZ Marauder, it's going to be totally up to you on what you want to be able to run. But here's my full MTZ build. Go ahead and get the screenshot. Next up, surprise, surprise, the Superi 46. This gun is not leaving the meta anytime soon, not unless they try to nerf this thing into the ground, which I don't think really have any plans to do so because they really like this gun. It's a new DLC gun. They're not really going to be nerfing it. So first thing here in the muzzle category is going to be that Zeman 35. You guys got to be running this. It only makes sense to run this as your primary recoil based attachment on this gun. Anything else after that, you don't need to really worry about recoil. You just have to focus on having the Zeman, and after that, you can kind of build this how you want to. Barrel section, we're going to go throw on that Bore 99 short barrel for hipfire tac stand spread, sprint to fire, ADS speed, and of course movement speed. Wonderful barrel. I personally really enjoy that Zulu OP3 light barrel, which is really solid. You also don't lose some of your damage range, so your effective damage range will be 14 meters here as opposed to 12.9, so if it makes a large difference to you personally, go and run that OP3. You can run this the exact same way that I'm going to be building it, or you can run that Bore 99 short and get a little bit more movement capabilities. On a barrel section, throw on that XRK edge for aim walking speed, movement speed, aim down sight speed, and of course sprint to fire speed. Wonderful attachment between this and the DR6. You realistically cannot go wrong. It is personal preference at the end of the day between these two attachments. Not going to make a large difference between the DR6 and the XRK edge. Magazine, 40 round mag. Pretty standard. Ain't gotta explain this one too much. 20 does make sense. 8 doesn't make sense. It never makes sense almost on any gun. Short of maybe like the Vel 46 because that has like a 40 round mag stock. But otherwise, you really should just always run a bigger magazine. Lastly, in the stock section, we can throw a couple different things on here. The primary like meta attachment, the meta attachment for this is going to be the Rescue 9 stock. So you can always go for the no stock, which is really fun to use. Going to give you a little bit more recoil, and also you're going to be feeling like you're flying around the map even a little bit more so. Or if you want crazy strafe speed, you can have that Jack Cutthroat, and that is going to be absolutely ridiculous, and people are really not going to be able to keep up with you. So Jack Cutthroat works really good. No stock is going to give you the most recoil by far. The Rescue 9 is going to give you crazy good movement speed as well, but it's not like strafe speed. It's just overall movement capabilities, which is that is my preference right now, is having the Rescue 9 on there as opposed to the Jack Cutthroat. All three of those options are really fun, and you really are not going to be steered wrong either which way you try to build this gun. So this is going to be the most meta build for the Superi. And of course, here is my ability to get the screenshot. Next up for another assault rifle is going to be the Holger 556. This caught a pretty nice buff and should be significantly more effective than it ever used to be. So we're going to be giving you guys the best build here for it. Muzzle category, we're going to go throw on that VT7 Spiritfire suppressor. Unlike the MTZ, you guys should be running a suppressor on this. It makes sense, keeps you off the radar, and it helps out your overall bullet velocity and range. We're starting out at 774 meters per second, which is really solid, and I'm pretty excited about that because the base, they moved that from 690 to 720, making it just genuinely more effective. Barrel section, you go throw on the Cryos 6 match barrel. Bullet velocity and range, recoil control, and gun kick control. Only barrel in here that's even worth using. You guys basically should only go for this. None of these ever make sense because you're not going to be making the Holger into an SMG. You're never going to be using that. There's so many other things that are way better. So you should always go for the Cryo 6. And this brings us out to 46.4 with a 76 minimum. And of course, our bullet velocity is now 855 meters per second, which is really good. We're skipping that outer barrel section, going straight down to the magazine, throw it on the 40 round mag. This is really the only downside to the Holger, is that it only has a 40. I'd prefer to have a 45, 50, even a 60 would be really nice, but we don't have that option, so you just have to go for the 40. Optic section, we go through on the Jack Glassless here as per usual. The Jack Glassless is like the only optic I will basically run. I really don't even go for that Choreo 2.5x anymore. I just don't believe that to be really necessary, especially if I'm playing Rebirth Island. I don't believe the Choreo to be really usable, so I just go for the Jack Glassless, and I'm perfectly taken care of at any and all ranges I'm going to need this gun for. And lastly, in the stock section, we go throw on the RB Adel Assault stock because this is actually significantly better than running the Brune Heavy support grip or some other underbarrels. This is way better overall recoil control here at a 9, 14, and 14% increase to our overall ability to control the recoil. So this is my full build here for the Holger, and of course go ahead and get that screenshot. And for our final gun here today, we're going to be using the SOA Subverter. There are other SMGs, ARs, sniper rifles that are still technically good, but I want to bring back the SOA since this actually is a really solid gun here still in the season, and I want to be able to show you guys that you can still use it and have a great build for it. So first, taking that muzzle, we're gonna go throw on a compensator, and that is going to go down here, and it's going to be that standard Casus Break L. Definitely got to control the recoil on this thing. I believe that this thing will definitely kick a little bit too much if you don't have the right attachments on it, and this is going to be the ideal setup for it. So we're going to throw this on here. Barrel section, got to throw on the Dozer 90 long. I mean, there's only 2 barrels in here, and this is the one that extends out your range, which you're using this for longer ranges. So the Dozer 90 is what you should be using exclusively. Skipping the outer barrel section, going straight down to the magazine, we're going to throw on the 50 round drum. Always go for this. Doesn't make sense to even go for the 30 or even the base 20. That is just pitiful. That's really quite pitiful too, to go for the 50. In the optics section, throwing that Jack glassless here. I really enjoy this sight, not just because it's a very clear blue dot, red dot, but just because it helps your overall firing aiming stability, and that is super nice when you're trying to hit those shots and not have your gun bounce around. It just keeps the gun very, very stable, and also helps your overall visual recoil, meaning that your gun's going to look a little bit more like a laser beam and it's not going to jump around hardly. Jack glassless is basically the best optic you can run here by far. Lastly, in the stock section, this is my personal preference in here, but going for that Motion V2 Heavy as opposed to that Brune Heavy. The Brune Heavy gives you that increase in vertical recoil, which I feel like can really mess with this gun, and I don't like that at all. I'm a huge proponent of trying to minimize vertical recoil on guns that have that weird kick on it, and this gun definitely has that. So we're really trying to, minimize that with a nice 10, 12, and 12% increase overall, and this is going to be your best bet. So this can be the full build here for the SOA. Here's your final ability to get a screenshot for one of these builds. With that being said, that's been my top 5. If you guys enjoyed it, be sure to give it a like for the algorithm, subscribe with notifications turned on, check out this video on screen, and I'll see you all next time.